Recording is live. Hello everyone. We are getting started for this second version of the Coeus Collective and Pond Conversation series here. Today, we have a great day set for a conversation with Josh Kotrous, founding engineer at Pond. Founding engineer at Pensar, and Chris Rogers of Pond. So, really excited to be here. Josh, Chris?
It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to kick off this interview and give a little bit of an intro on Pond.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Super excited to get into the conversation.
Okay. So, yep, we're just going to wait a couple seconds here just to make sure that we are all set on all platforms. I know that there's a lot going on. We have Riverside, X, and YouTube. So just giving it a second here to make sure that we are all good before we get the conversation going. We got the all good on YouTube, and our LinkedIn might take an extra second here. So we're going to make sure that this is going up. And it looks like LinkedIn is all good too. So we're really happy about that. And yeah, oops.
All right, we all good to kick things off, Antonio?
All right, yep. So Chris, Josh, welcome. Welcome to everyone here. And Chris, let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, again, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Chris. I'm the Ecosystem Growth Lead here at Pond. And not only do we have a really special, great interview for today, but you may be wondering, hey, what is Pond and what's the purpose? Why are we joining on here today? Well, Pond, what we do is we help early stage crypto and AI projects go from the idea phase or an MVP to actually launching and creating an impact. So you could take your project into a startup. And the purpose of today's more macro view of today's meeting is we have a hackathon going on, the Founder Speedrun Hackathon. Not only do we have some really awesome prizes from some of our sponsors like Google Cloud, the Ethereum Foundation, and 11 Labs, but we also are trying to find the best projects that are solving real world problems with your solution and turn those projects or those ideas into a business. And Pond will help teams and support them in order to make their dreams come true and turn their idea into a business. So with that, I'll hand it off to Antonio, the CEO of the Coeus Collective, as well as Josh, the founding engineer at Pensar, to go over a really cool interview that we have for you all today. So I'm excited to listen in. I'll leave it to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. We're stoked for another great conversation. First conversation the other day was with Charles Slamowitz, managing partner of Slam Shark. That one was super Web3 focused. There's a lot of amazing insights. Today, we are heading more on the AI side, seeking to have a technical conversation, but one that could be understood by people at all levels of the technical journey. It's quite the pleasure to be here today as part of Coeus Collective. Coeus Collective is a community of technologists, entrepreneurs, and investors based in New York City. We have in-person events, podcasts, and we love to work on hackathons like this one. This is a virtual hackathon. Love to do this with Pond, and thank you so much to our sponsors, Google Cloud, the Ethereum Foundation, and 11 Labs for supporting Pond's incredible initiative. Today we're here with Josh, who we did an amazing New York Tech Week hackathon with back in the beginning of June. So Josh, introduce yourself. What's your name and what do you do? Tell us more about Pensar and your role.
Absolutely, Antonio. Thank you so much for having me, first and foremost. I had a great time hosting the first hackathon with Coeus Collective, and it was really incredible seeing kind of all of the solutions that people had built in that short amount of time. But thank you so much for having me. My name is Josh Kotrous. I'm the founding engineer at Pensar. At Pensar, we're building kind of like the next generation of application security. So there's a lot of traditional security approaches, a lot of traditional security tools out there, and many of them lacked kind of the context awareness that we can now unlock with LLMs and AI. So we're really building AI at the core of our platform, and not only improving the existing kind of traditional security scanners and improving upon those by reducing noise. But as people are building AI agents and we're exploring this new frontier of different attack vectors that we haven't encountered yet, we're focusing there as well to make sure that if you're building code with Cursor, with Windsurf, and using AI-generated code, or building AI agents themselves, we can help you secure those and lock those down.
Amazing. I mean, it's a new frontier, right? Everybody's talking about agentic AI. People are talking about the role of agents and the effect that it's going to have in the entire tech ecosystem. So really grateful to have you share your perspective today, Josh. I think we're going to start off with this question for all the people as part of this Pond Hackathon live stream series, which is, tell us about a fond hackathon memory you have. It could be about the one we worked on, or it could be about a different one. But this is a hackathon, so in the spirit of that, yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of months ago, Pensar had the opportunity to host a hackathon actually at Hofstra University. And the reason why that one was so memorable to me is because I think just the age group with people that are sophomores, juniors in college, much more early in their journey, it was so cool to see them just be a sponge to absorb as much knowledge as possible, having people come up and ask technical questions and better approaches of how to do things, and then seeing also kind of like at that age level and at that group what solutions they were able to come out of also in a very short amount of time. It was very incredible and just exciting to see kind of the new generation of builders and what people are working on in college at the moment. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, shout out to the university tech ecosystems. Shout out to the tech ecosystem at any university. I think there's still so much more to be done. Still so many students are starting to get onboarded into tech at university. Part of our role is to connect the VC, tech, and university ecosystem. So it's been amazing for us to do work at the universities we're connected with, NYU, PACE, etc. Would love to connect about Hofstra as well, but we can save that for next time. For now, keep it back to Pond. And I know that there are some university students who are competing in this as well, that are part of our network. Just spoke to one yesterday, actually. So we're really stoked, and we hope that all of the teams that Coeus Collective is connected to, but all of the university students who are taking the time to take part in this 2-week initiative can use this as a learning experience, and also just something to make sure they're on the right track over the summer. We all want to make sure we're doing as much as we can over the summer, taking advantage of our time off from academics. All right, so Coeus Collective, whenever we like to speak with someone, we like to keep these conversations actionable, right? So Josh, let's talk about engineering techniques, right? There's hackathon teams. They may have some security pitfalls almost immediately, right? So what's like one concrete engineering technique you'd like hackathon participants to start with to making sure that their security is all good from the beginning of their hackathon journey?
Yeah, this is a great question. So one thing that we believe at Pensar, and just like as an engineering manager coming from that background and broader engineering practices, I think is really good to focus on, but we truly believe in shifting left on security and secure by design practices. And what that actually means in action is scanning as you're building your application, scanning your application for security vulnerabilities from day one. And some ways that you're able to do that is by integrating scanning directly into your CI workflow, by scanning pull requests as they're open and as they're being merged into the repository. So that's actually something that our platform has focused a lot on, is having a very tight integration with GitHub, very good detailed GitHub status checks so you can see right in your pull requests as you're building kind of the issues that we're finding in new pull requests, and then also including the patches to fix those issues directly in those same pull requests as well. So you never really need to leave GitHub or your core development workflow. So in terms of security practices, when you're moving this quickly, I would really encourage everyone to scan their code from day one, implement the event-based scanning to be scanning as they're building and merging in new PRs. And again, like I said, our platform allows you, enables you to do this, and we provide 2 weeks free. So I'd love for you guys to sign up at console.pensar.dev, scan your code there, and see what we find.
Awesome. So Pensar seems to be an amazing tool. Definitely got to see the demo of it during the hackathon that we worked on together, the New York Minute Hackathon, and agreed on all points that's super important for people to be aware of security from the beginning. I guess, I know that from speaking with you and Kyle, the Pensar platform has changed since it was launched, and you being the founding engineer, you've had a lot of changes and gone through, the amazing journey of what it's like to build an early stage tech startup. When you're making these fixes, right, and you're seeking to release, improved triaging and auto fixes like the new Pensar update has done, what's like a simple test or metric that builders can integrate to ensure that they're looking for the right things?
Yeah, absolutely. So like in the context of our platform, the agent will kind of like generate a test along with its patches generating to verify that everything is actually working properly and being implemented properly. But kind of on the broader engineering spectrum, one thing I can't highlight enough is just testing, and in particular exploratory testing. So sure, there's a lot of practices like test-driven development that you can implement from day one that in practice are supposed to help you achieve this and build unit tests as you're going and really make sure that you're thoroughly testing things with unit tests. But I think that it doesn't always work in practice, and there's not all situations that are captured by just test-driven development and building unit tests. So really, really encourage you to have a defined happy path, especially if you're going to be doing a live demo that you've tested dozens, if not hundreds of times, and then also performing very extensive exploratory testing manually, making sure that you're testing edge cases that you might not be accounting for, and really being thorough in that regard.
You know, Josh, you mentioned two incredibly important words in not only a hackathon, but in any form of experience when you're showing someone your tech product for the first time, the live demo, right? Mm-hmm. It's very nerve-wracking. We've all been there before. We've all had to present something. And sometimes, maybe it doesn't go right. And it's a little bit stressful when that happens, but I think it is important to think about ways that people can perhaps boost their confidence to ensure that their live demo is going to go smoothly, whether that's at a hackathon, whether that's for an investor meeting, or anything like that. I guess maybe this answer can maybe even be different for a virtual hackathon versus an in-person hackathon, so maybe feel free to get into both sides of it that way. But do you have any tips on just ways that you would recommend boosting confidence when you're showcasing something in a live demo for the first time?
Yeah, I would say I definitely call back to the testing point there, in particular in terms of defining what your happy path is, what are you very specifically going to show during the demo. That way you kind of have that definition of this is what we know needs to work 100% properly end to end, and testing that and making sure that there's no bugs within that and that it's going to go smooth. But I'd also say leaning on existing technologies, existing frameworks that help you kind of implement these guardrails without you having to think too much about them. In software development, you don't have to reinvent the wheel for every problem, and you can reuse existing technologies to help you solve some of these larger problems. So for example, if you're building AI agents in the context of a hackathon, something like Mostra is a TypeScript framework that will help you more easily spin these up and work a little bit more quickly. So kind of the point towards testing, but then also leaning on and utilizing existing frameworks and technologies where they make sense can really help you kind of solve a lot of the bigger problems quickly.
Shout out Mostra. Mostra was a supporter of the New York Minute Hackathon that we worked on. I think that's a great tool. Maybe we could speak a little bit more on Mostra and how it's affected the builds that you've made or that you've seen other people make.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've used Mostra a little bit more in the context of hackathons, but I've seen a lot of people use it in hackathons. One of the last hackathons that we had, they were really quickly able to spin up an AI agent that essentially helped sell insurance for flights, if I recall correctly. And in just 4 hours, using Mostra and some of the basic primitives that they provide, they were able to get this AI agent up and running completely within the time that they had allotted. And that was kind of an example of, okay, we need something that works reliably. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here, and we also, in the context of a hackathon, need to move quickly. So let's use this existing framework that's going to help us quickly get there to something that we can actually show, demo, and then iterate on kind of after the hackathon.
Amazing. And so thinking about the role of a hackathon, right? You just mentioned a build within 4 hours, right? And something that we've seen as people who have organized hackathons is the concept of really thinking about how short can a hackathon be in this modern vibe coding era, right? A hackathon could even be 4 hours for one that's focused on vibe coding for people who are just getting started, right? That is how low the barrier of entry to code has become. I'm interested in what you think about, Josh, in the future of hackathons, right? And I guess I'm also interested in knowing through you and Kyle that hackathons are a big part of how you get the word out about Pensar, how you're able to find amazing people to support the journey. Let's speak a bit about the future of hackathons, because I know that they're really key to both of our journeys. So I'm curious on how you're approaching that, because even with you just mentioning a 4-hour hackathon, a few years ago, people would have said that's not a hackathon, right? But now we're at the point where that certainly is. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're getting to a point where with AI tools and with some of the things that we're talking about in this conversation, you can achieve so much in so little time, and you can almost have a whole MVP of a startup idea built during just a 4 to 6 hour hackathon, especially with a small team of people. So I think that going forward, we're going to probably see a lot more actual potential startup and product ideas come out of hackathons simply because you're able to achieve so much more, iterate so much faster, and then working with a team that only grows that even more.
Yeah, of course. And I think like even the concept of like hackathons, right? It used to be hackathon because you can only have so much time to just hack something together, right? I think the new word might be build-a-thons. I think Coeus Collective might get involved with that and making that the next thing because you're really able to build something. I mean, obviously not, especially from Pensar's perspective with the security and everything. That's not going to be a real major product within such a short period of time. But there is always the opportunity to be able to think about like, hey, this is something that is not just a little hack together project. This is something that can turn into a real company. I'm going to give a second to just say that we're now at the point, since we're over halfway through our interview here, we are going to welcome some questions. So if you are on any of our platforms, the way that we can see your questions is simply by sending a comment. So whether that's LinkedIn, X, or YouTube, any comments that come in there, we're down to answer any questions. I think, Josh, the conversation so far has been wonderful based on security, AI, the perspective of being a founding engineer, and even the future of hackathons, which I think is a fun thing to talk about. I want to speak a little bit about your role, too, and what it means to be a founding engineer. How does that differ from the CTO role, right? How have you developed as Pensar has become one of, in my opinion, NYC's premier VC-backed tech startups, how your role has developed over time? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Sure, yeah. I think as a founding engineer, you end up wearing certainly a lot of different hats, and I also think a lot of it comes down to like how much ownership you're willing to take on as well. So when I first came on, I really was just focused on the code and still am 100% focused on the code. Between Karem and I, and as well as an engineer that we brought on in the last couple of months, we've built kind of the whole end-to-end platform ourselves, have brought on our initial customer base, iterated with their initial feedback, and that's something that we've all kind of done as a collective. But how my role has really kind of changed, like as we've grown, is I'm certainly moving more into a leadership position where, with the founders, getting more involved in some of the investor conversations, as well as playing a role in early sales deals and larger enterprise pipeline deals that we have. So it really goes from you're not just working within the code and developing code all day long. You end up getting opportunities just like this one, where I'm on a live stream able to talk with people, sharing my experiences. Those are all things that I kind of expected that I'd be able to get into, but wasn't really sure how it would materialize. And kind of here we are today, where Pensar is a lot more established. We have a product that I'm incredibly proud of, and that I think is really going to change kind of how security is approached by small, medium organizations and even enterprises as well. So yeah, it's really just been wearing a lot of different hats, and I have grown significantly, not only as an engineer, but then also kind of like with all the investor and VC conversations. That's something that I wasn't totally exposed to before, and have been able to be exposed to kind of via Pensar.
That's amazing. And I guess the follow-up question for this has to be, Josh, where do you expect your role to go moving forward, right? I mean, I'm a huge fan of you, Kyle, Karem, and the team. I think you guys are working on amazing things. I know that the future is bright for you guys. Where do you think this is all going, and how do you expect your role to change? Yeah,
definitely. This coming year, I think we have a really, really exciting roadmap ahead of us, some very specific goals that we want to action on. And we're also going to be bringing on some more resources soon, too. So I think my role is going to be definitely more in the leadership. I'll go more to like a leadership position where I'm going to be overseeing kind of more of a team where I'll be orchestrating all the work that they're doing, and then kind of aligning with Karem and Kyle on what the actual product roadmap is going to look like, what needs to be done to close deals that we're focusing on, and orchestrating that kind of with the team that we're going to be putting together here.
Awesome. So, all right. So product management, kind of understanding the roadmap from the founders, that goes to you. You make sure everything is done properly. That's awesome, Josh. Thank you. And I'm stoked for the future of Pensar and all of your journeys. I think it's time to get to the questions from the audience. This one is from Duval. I think we're going to start with some questions that are very simply about people just starting their coding experience, okay, or perhaps utilizing a hackathon to get to know things. A little bit about what I was saying before about the changing role of hackathons. Duval asked a great question, which is, what are the best tools to create a fast MVP? What would you recommend in this day and age?
Yeah, that's a great question. So internally, I'm a very big fan of, and I think we'll get to this a little bit later in the conversation, but deploying early and often, getting things to production as early as possible, and some of the tools that I'm about to talk about are going to help you do that. So I'm a super big fan of infrastructure as code. Internally at Pensar, we use this tool called SST. It's an open source infrastructure as code tool that allows you to connect to whether it's AWS, Azure, Cloudflare, Vercel, or all of those together. You can connect to those providers using TypeScript constructs, create your database, create queues, create Lambda functions, all as code. And then what's great about this too is if you're using Cursor or you're using coding agents, they can contribute to your infrastructure as well if you're doing this. So if you're using something like SST, or if you prefer Python, there's a serverless equivalent for that as well. And you're kind of coupling that with AI tools. In even just an hour, you could have a Next.js frontend spun up with a Postgres database spun up, talking to each other, and have a fully functional application, at least the infrastructure, in just an hour. So I would really recommend like SST, infrastructure as code, and I also encourage mono repos just to kind of keep everything in the same location. You're not jumping between repo to make different changes. So yeah.
All within 1 hour. I was impressed before when we said 4 hours, and now we're at 1 hour. No, but seriously, I mean, this is all changing, and I don't think you can get to be less than 1 hour. I think there are some very basic technical and product components that can only be figured out within, let's say, an hour, maybe a half hour if the tools moved a little bit faster. But I think we're moving as fast as we almost possibly can now. But that's amazing, Josh, and honestly, I agree. It's very interesting in the context of this hackathon, specifically to the Pond Hackathon, because this is a 2-week process. It's a 2-week remote process, so the pressure of being in one room is not present. So in my opinion, based off of what you just said, right, that leaves room for iteration, right? If the very basic steps, like you just mentioned, are all there, you're not getting your repos messed up, everything is together, we should be able to create a bunch of potential different products, maybe even a couple different MVPs, and be able to test that out within that 2-week period. Perhaps for the people who are in the hackathon who are listening, maybe that's something that would be of interest to you. I don't know if I would completely advocate for that. Perhaps it is just best to focus on one. But if you are torn, 2 weeks is a large amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think for the first time what's really, really exciting about kind of going back to where hackathons are going is for years I've been saying, like, when there's a new feature, I know what needs to be done, I know how to do it, I just need the time to do it. For the first time, we have the ability to spin up like a Cursor background agent, and I know what needs to be done, I can define the requirements to do it, I can give you instructions on how it needs to be done and how I'm expecting it to be done, and then an agent can really get you a lot of the way there if you have enough of kind of the context ahead of time.
Awesome. And so to follow up on Duval's question, this is now a question from Jack, which is in a similar realm, asking, what tips do you have for someone attending their first hackathon? How do I choose a direction and build off it? And this is, just to kind of build off this question here. What I think is interesting is always the concept of when a hackathon starts. Are you trying to build something that you already have going? Or are you trying to build something that you think is going to win, right? And in this Pond Hackathon, for example, because we have our amazing 3 sponsors, Google Cloud, Ethereum Labs, and the Ethereum Foundation, and 11 Labs, there are tracks, of course, that are trying to encourage them to utilize their platforms. And of course, that involves building something that's specifically for the track. However, as Jack asks, maybe you could think of a different direction and something that's just this utilizing the platform, utilizing the hackathon as a platform for just creating something that you want to build, right? So how would you go about thinking about your strategic direction at the beginning of a hackathon?
Yeah. So in a hackathon, I would say when you're trying to find a problem, I mean, outside of the tracks, I've always encouraged people to like look at problems that they have on their own that they would want to be solved. So if you have like ever a thought of, oh, I really wish this tool had existed, maybe you use the hackathon to go and build that tool or build an initial version of that tool. But if it's your first hackathon, I would really, really encourage you to be just a sponge and absorb information from everyone around you as much as possible. What's such a great opportunity in a hackathon is if it's your first time, you're going to be surrounded by people who maybe it's their 10th hackathon, or maybe they're working in an enterprise as a software engineer. And you have the opportunity to connect with all these people, absorb all their knowledge from them. So I'd really encourage you, if it's your first hackathon, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. And in fact, if it's your first hackathon, you should be asking stupid questions. There's no shame in that. So like I said, just be a sponge and learn as much as you can. And when it comes to determining kind of what you want to build, try to solve problems that you have in your own personal life.
Hey, that's my advice for anybody starting anything, whether it's technical product, non-technical product, hackathon, non-hackathon. Think about a problem that you specifically have, right? I mean, that's always the key to actually creating something, right? Otherwise, you may be actually inventing a problem by creating a product, which is never good. And you're not even solving something that exists in your own head. You're just creating a problem for yourself and for your prospective customers, investors, etc. Josh, we have a follow-up question from Duval now, asking how about for UI, right? And I think this also gets back into the difference perhaps between different hackathons, right? This one being a 2-week hackathon, right, perhaps leaves us with the opportunity to have more time to create a wonderful UI UX experience. Perhaps a 4-hour hackathon is not going to allow you to create that amazing experience, but this one probably does. Nevertheless, how do you go about thinking about UI from the beginning of your hackathon experience?
Sure, yeah. Again, I'd go back to just using whatever framework you're most comfortable in and that you have the most experience in. And if you don't have experience like in any particular framework, my personal favorite is Next.js, and really allows me to move quickly, where you can spin up your own API directly within your app, talk to those from your front end, and also have the ability to use like server actions to easily run functions on the server-based components. So I wouldn't say there's like any right or wrong answer to which UI library or UI framework makes the most sense. It really comes down to what you're most comfortable with, what you feel you can be the most productive in. But if you're not sure where to start, I would say Next.js is a really great entry point for you to be able to build a full stack application using both front end and also like server-based components as well.
Amazing. Josh, what I've loved about this conversation is how you've recommended specific tools, right? And it's not just Pensar, right? We are certainly going to recommend Pensar for your security needs, but you've recommended so many specific tools, right? And if somebody were to like take the transcript of this conversation and put it into classic LLM, ChatGPT, whatever they want to use, I think something that would really come out as being important from this conversation is these specific tools that you've referenced. So really grateful that you've had such a specific perspective to share with the audience here. I think we're going to stop with questions for now. So thank you so much for those who submitted questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Josh or somebody else in the Pond team, and we'll make sure that we get them answered. Appreciative of all you being here. Josh, any final words of advice for building generally or for people in this Pond hackathon?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see kind of all the solutions that come out of it. I'd really encourage you, like I said, like rely on like existing technologies, existing frameworks to help do a lot of the work for you. One other like tool that I didn't get to mention is like the Vercel AI SDK. We also utilize that internally to create generative user interfaces, easily create chat interfaces directly in your app. So just that coupled with like Next.js is really going to help you be able to move quickly with specific technologies. Like if you do want to build an actual AI chat agent, you can do that very quickly with these technologies. So yeah, I would just say any final words would be use this as a learning experience. Ask stupid questions, meet your team, and get to know kind of like what knowledge you can absorb from them, and really what you want to get out of this hackathon. It's really not just about building code, building apps and writing code. It's really also about like the people you're meeting, the connections you're making, and kind of the knowledge that you're absorbing from it as well.
Awesome. That's amazing advice, Josh. And finally, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about what you're working on and learn more about Pensar generally?
Sure, yeah. You can find our website at pensarai.com. That will also link to our actual platform at console.pensar.dev. If you guys want to use it during the hackathon, absolutely feel free. You'll have the duration of the hackathon for the free trial. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Josh Kotrous. I'm sure we'll send links out and such. But yeah, thank you so much, Antonio, for the opportunity. I really enjoyed our chat. So.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. For those of you on the East Coast, we hope you enjoyed your lunch with us. If you're on the West Coast, we hope you're enjoying the mid-morning. And if you're elsewhere in the world, we hope you're enjoying the part of the day that you are in. Meet us again on next Tuesday for the third of 4 installments in the Coeus Collective X Pond Hackathon Founder Speedrun Hackathon livestream series. On Tuesday, we will be speaking with Nisarg Patel. He is a product manager at IBM Watson X AI, so feel free to come with some amazing questions for somebody building at the forefront of one of the world's most used AI products. Josh, it was amazing to speak with you today, though. Really grateful for your time. Looking forward to staying connected, perhaps doing another hackathon together in the future. Maybe we'll get Pond involved as well. There are a lot of big things ahead, man. We're stoked for you. I'm so happy that I got to meet you, Kyle, Karim, and the rest of the team. Going to be excited to continue following your journey. And yeah, for the builders in the Pond Hackathon, let's keep it going. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay building, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.